My name is Connie, and I'm sure some of you know me, and some don't. That's okay. I've been asked to come up here and share the story of an event that took place in my life. It's a very sorrowful event. It was not a good time in my life. And I'm not going to make it a long story, I'll make it short. But the part of this that you have to understand is, when this occurred 30 years ago, I was a Christian, I was saved, I was born again, but I wasn't doing all the things I needed to do as a Christian. I wasn't walking a Christian walk, I wasn't reading my Bible, I wasn't attending a church. I was praying and talking to God, but I was starting to go down different avenues. The humanist avenue. Basically, I was a good person, but I just wasn't doing what I should be doing. And I had a son whose name is Nathan. It was around Christmas time. He was 12, 13 years old. And he came down with some type of disease, which he had a terrible headache, he had a fever, but it continued to get worse and worse and worse. Eventually, I had to take him to the emergency room, thinking that they would just know what it was and everything would be fine and we'd get this fixed. Well, what had happened was he had an extremely high fever. It was almost 104. He couldn't walk. And they ended up transporting him to St. John's Pediatric Unit, where he stayed for 30 days, getting sicker and sicker. His fever would never go below 102, and it just would climb up to 104 without any type of medication. Every single doctor, every single type of specialty that you can possibly think of reviewed his case. He had multiple blood tests. He had every scan known to man, more than once. Nothing showed any reason why he should be suffering in terrible pain, unable to walk, and with this extremely high fever. And I did pray during that time. I prayed. But there came a point when all avenues that are humanly possible had been exacerbated, and there was just nothing we could do. And the nurse said to me, "We're actually losing this child. His body was just ravaged from the pain and from the fever." And I couldn't figure out why God wasn't answering my prayers. And at the time, he became delirious, very delirious, and he was going in and out of consciousness. And he was saying, "Mom, you have to just let me go. You have to just let me go. It's okay. It'll be okay, Mom. You just have to let me go." And I thought, how can I let my 12 or 13-year-old go? Why would God want this? So it came to the point where another doctor came in and said, "It has to be all in his mind. I want you to get the kid up and just start walking around the hospital." And he couldn't move his legs. And when the nurses got him up, he was just screaming, literally screaming in pain. And the nurse said, "I'm not going to do this. A child does not create in his mind 104 fever." And I went alone and I said, "God, I don't want to let my son go. I love him. But if it's your will, if that's what you really want, if that's what's necessary to happen in my life, I'll let it happen. And I'll somehow be okay with it. But please, God, if there's any way in your great mercy, if you can send us the answer to what this is." And the next day, a doctor came, and that we had never seen before, and said his colleague had written a paper about a rare condition, and it sounded very much like what was happening here, but there'd only be one way to find out, and that would be to do an operation on his spine. And I said, maybe this is the answer. It's the first person who even thought it could be something, and I said, I gave the permission for it. They took him right into surgery. They opened up his back, and they found out that his sacroiliac joint was totally infected with pus, and it was just locked in place. It was traveling up his spine and would have gone to his brain had we not intervened at this time. And it was a very rare condition with only 200 reported cases in the last 100 years in the whole world. And it's introduced by a simple bacteria just being introduced deeply into your body by a puncture wound that doesn't bleed and it seeps throughout your body. But the point is that God sent the answer. He made a way when there was no way, when there was no hope, when doctors were saying every single test known to man has been done and there's nothing here, no disease is proven here, but only the effects that we can obviously see. And I had to thank God for that. And today, my son is alive and well. He still suffers some effects. The name of the disease is pyogenic sacroiliitis. And my son is alive and well and, believes in God, and his son, Easton, is sitting right there. That's the story I wanted to share, that your prayers, even when it looks like there is nothing that can be done, there's an answer. There's an answer. You have to take it to God, and you have to believe, but you also have to be willing that God's will be done, no matter how it feels in your heart or soul. And I just want to say thank you.